evening to all. Welcome to this Poquoson City Council work session. I'd like to call this to order. Tonight we'll be discussing a conditional use permit application by Joe Raffles of Islander Outdoors LLC for the operation of a multi-use facility. And we have with us tonight our principal planner, Mr. Thomas Cannella, and he has a presentation for us. So Thomas, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. It's a pleasure to be with you this evening. I do have I won't say a short presentation, but I'll try to be mindful of your time. If you have any questions as I go along, please feel free to stop me. Chairwoman Schott is here as well. Thank her for attending, and certainly can convey some thoughts and feelings of the Planning Commission that if you have those questions. The applicant for the CUP is Joe Raffles, Iowa LLC. He has submitted for the operation of a multi-use facility. I say multi-use because that is what is true to the request for an indoor gun range, gunsmithing and firearm manufacturing, retail and office and classrooms to be operated at 300 City Hall Avenue, which is the parcel on the roundabout, the dead end side of the roundabout right by City Hall Avenue. The code consideration is that the uses as described by the applicant are not permitted by right in the Village Commercial District, nor are they explicitly prohibited and therefore require a CUP. Advertisement information about the use, and this is per the business description in the application. Islander Outdoors will become one of Poquoson's premier attractions. The recreational facility will be composed of 2 marksmanship courses that are divided into 2 bays each. I'll get into a little more details about those in just a second. Additionally, the building will have administrative space, a classroom and a conference room, and workshop space. While recreational shooting is the primary focus of the business, it'll also have a specialty retail section to facilitate sale of outdoor sporting products, firearms, and accessories. There's really 2 main business uses in the facility in its first phase, I would say. And like I mentioned, we'll get to those in more detail in just a second. The classroom and conference room space will be used to house firearm education, safety, and safety courses. The workshop space will be used to facilitate firearm repairs, manufacturing, and gunsmithing. The building will also have additional space for rent to other businesses that comply with permitted uses listed in the permitted uses section of the VC district. The shooting arena will include a law enforcement training bay, which will be designed to facilitate qualification and currency training for public safety personnel with their own private access to the range. This is the proposed site. As I mentioned, neighboring City Hall. This was formerly the Straight Shot Brewing parcel, as it was affectionately known for years, but the applicant has made purchase of the property, so not only is he the applicant, he is the owner. This is a conceptual site layout provided to us by the applicant. The reason you see the X on what I'll call that southern wing is because this is being requested as a phased project, and phase 1 only includes the middle section, that cornerstone section I'll call it, and the wing to the north. This is another concept design provided by the applicant. You see an easement there. I'll mention those details more clearly in a slide to follow. This is phase 1 construction. Again, I want to emphasize the point that the request is just for the phase 1 of this project. You see some floor plan information on the left. You see a 3D, a concept to the bottom right, and the same on the top right. You may ask, well, what is that long structure that runs from northwest to southeast? That is a 300-foot or 100-yard long rifle range that will be partially below grade. This is the Phase 1 floor plan, Level 1. You see the 100-yard bay there that I just mentioned, and I say it is partially subgrade as described by the applicant, but this is not a shooting bay or lane that you would typically envision. Of course, the shooting area would be of typical height and size, but what you're actually shooting into is much more like engineered, I'll say, culvert pipes with a target at the end. So it wouldn't be an 8 or 10-foot structure the whole way, but it would run under the parking lot of the building as proposed. You see a quiet range there. That would be for bows or maybe air rifles, a VIP lounge, another small range there, more tailored to their VIP members, and of course the lobby downstairs. The flat range is an open range that you would imagine is more so for law enforcement training or tactical training or perhaps mobile shooting competitions. It's not necessarily lanes or bayed. This is level 2 of the Phase 1 floor plan. See the retail area in the middle. There is classroom space and a gunsmithing space. The bottom left, loading zone and storage. Retail storage, you can see the counter there. Restrooms, a prep room for the range. Check-in area for the range and a viewing area for the range. The applicant has provided some pictures of ranges designed in a similar fashion. We'll get there momentarily. These are 25-yard bays, each partitioned by a lane. This is a backstop. The backstop material is, as explained, of course, there's a level of concrete, but it is rubber, almost like a rubber mulch that you would shoot into, and then occasionally the shot would more or less be mined out of it, and then it would be repacked appropriately. The area around the range is open storage area. This to serve that purpose, but also serves a sound dampening purpose as well. This is the third level of the Phase 1. This would be more or less the third story of that cornerstone part of the building. You can see what's there: offices, conference room space, and executive office, restrooms, and janitorial space. This space in the middle would be overlooking the second level that we just saw. This is another 3D conceptual layout provided by the applicant. You'll notice that I've marked in red this access, which is described as Willanna Road. This is a private access from Alpha Street through a parcel owned by Mr. Moses of the Fence Project, and this owned by the Trust of Albert Sidney White. I've given you some visual here overlaid in our GIS to show you just a few things. In green, I show approximately the size and location of that private easement, that Willanna Road easement that extends from Alphas to serve the parcel. It is a private access, the details of which are not completely understood to the total extent by staff, but certainly by the landowner, I would assume. This is an existing 50-foot easement that runs on the east side of the lot that would serve lots to the south. We've asked in a condition that the same be given to the city. As far as access is concerned in the existing easement, the applicant can't necessarily restrict the easement with construction, so that will remain. What I have shown in yellow is a 40-foot easement that was attached as a condition to the application that would be dedicated to the city for the purpose of a through connection to Alpha Street. That conveyance would only happen if and when City Council approved the funding to grant access to Mr. Raffles' lot from City Hall Avenue with the intention, of course, of eventually a connection to Alpha Street. I've shown the same thing here, but tried to clean it up for you. This is approximately 40 feet. Why 40 feet? Well, for a full connection, it would be two 12-lane, two-way road, two 12-foot lanes, which leaves enough room on the side for a sidewalk and any stormwater infrastructure, any ditching that may be necessary. Show it to you again here. The conveyance that would be required as a condition of approval, which I'll show you towards the end of the PowerPoint. But you can see here, this is the existing 50-foot easement for the purposes of ingress, egress, and possibly utilities, but at the very least, ingress and egress. This is an example of an 8-lane shooting bay. You can see the backstop there that I mentioned earlier. This is also an example, and this is what you may see or something similar that you would see in that lobby area outside of the shooting bay. A staging area for the shooting lanes. Also with this application is the request for some space for another business of the applicant, and that is Hampton Roads Paramotors. This is an image I borrowed from the internet, but that is a close-up of what exactly a paramotor is. You may have seen them if you frequent the Outer Banks. They fly down the beach quite often. Or if you ever see one in the sky here at home, that is the applicant, Mr. Raffles, flying over Back River. So pretty cool. What's important to consider in this application is what the city code has to say about the village commercial district, and this is taken straight from the code, and this is the purpose and intent of the district. And the code reads that the district's intended to encourage the establishment of a village center by permitting a variety of commercial, office, and residential uses in order to create a center of business and economic activity consistent with the locational advantage and prominence inherent in the big woods. Furthermore, it is the intent of this Article 2 and to do the following: encourage commercial and office uses that do not attract large volumes of traffic and continuous customer turnover. None of the proposed uses specifically are necessarily high traffic generators. High traffic generators being convenience stores, fast food, restaurants, grocery store, things of that nature. But overall impact would be hard to calculate, especially since this is a phased project. But you can imagine that, foot traffic and customers coming in and out of that building is how a business structured this way would remain viable. The second is that the second intent of the district is to limit and discourage developments of strip-type, highway-type oriented commercial uses, et cetera. I'm not going to read that whole thing to you. That creates a traffic hazard. It does not. As proposed, it would not. The third intent is to minimize the visual and functional conflicts between residential and non-residential uses within and abutting the district. We have a condition regarding architectural review and that it will be designed more or less consistent with City Hall, the office space up front, and the public safety building. And the fourth is to encourage the consolidation of curb cuts, driveways, parking areas for vehicular access, and to promote more efficient and economical parking facilities. That's something we'll ensure during development plan review. One thing we're tasked with and that is making sure there's enough spaces, adequate spaces, in this case for each use in the facility. But empty parking lots is not something we look for, and it's not attractive, so it won't be overkill either. The fifth intent is to promote development that minimizes land disturbance and incorporates compact, efficient design. This is a large footprint. You can see it in the concepts as provided by the applicant. However, this is, again, a phased application or phased development. Phase 1 is what you all will consider in your public hearing 2 weeks from now, simply for the uses in that cornerstone and the shooting bays in the northern wing. You can imagine that the overall footprint may be much smaller than if phase 2 were to be developed later. So the initial footprint may not be as large, but certainly if phase 2 were to be developed, it would likely require more parking and, of course, land development. The sixth intent of the Village Commercial District is to create a pedestrian-friendly environment through the incorporation of sidewalks, bikeways, street trees, and street furniture. Again, that's something we will ensure during development plan review, tying this use and that parcel into the sidewalk access already provided on City Hall Avenue and recently extended with the Public Safety Building would certainly be part of our review and requirements. This is a list of permitted uses in the Village Commercial District. I don't think it's necessary to go through them one by one, but you can see that the uses requested don't necessarily marry up to those that are permitted. That's not to say that in the second phase of the application, that southern wing, he couldn't house permitted uses in those spaces. That's more or less his request to provide office space or space for lease for uses otherwise permitted in the district. But this is before you primarily for those 4 uses that are not permitted in the VC district. The Village Commercial Code speaks specifically to conditional uses, much like that of the purpose and intent of the district. And it says that the City Council may approve a use as a conditional use upon consideration of, but not limited to, the following standards and criteria. A, all traffic impact shall be mitigated at the expense of the developer as deemed necessary by the city manager as designee. That's conditioned. Again, something we staff will ensure during development plan review, depending on what the scale of the project is and what uses will be incorporated in that first phase. And then our development review committee will look at it and make those determinations to mitigate any traffic impact as necessary. The second is that the proposed use will not conflict in architectural scale or style to existing development in the district. That's also conditioned. Like I mentioned earlier, it's conditioned that this building will be designed to more or less match surrounding buildings here on City Hall Avenue. The third is that minimal visual and functional conflict will be created between the proposed use and nearby uses. We don't anticipate that being an issue. Again, we'll ensure that during development plan review. And then the fourth is that anticipated noise and congestion created by the use will be comparable to the levels created by other permitted uses in this district. We have worked through a noise condition with the applicant. Since his first application, he has had some sound tests completed, measuring sound created from other ranges. He also had a theoretical sound creation study prepared by an audio team and professional. You'll see more details on that on the 24th, but we feel that the condition regarding noise is adequate to more or less preserve, what has really become a tranquil professional district here on City Hall Avenue. These are specifically prohibited uses in the VC district. The applicant is not requesting use of any of those. We always go to our comprehensive plan for guidance in these situations, and this is Chapter 7 of the comp plan in infrastructure, and we talked a little bit about that easement and the condition to eventually connect City Hall Avenue to Alpha Street. And it's worth mentioning that part of the comprehensive plan that I've boxed out in red there. It says the extension of Alpha Street to City Hall Avenue should also be considered to improve connectivity and promote economic development within the Village Commercial Zoning District. No formal studies of these sites have been proposed, but any future infrastructure improvement master plan should consider them as potential sites for new access roads or emergency detours. This is Chapter 8, the land use section of the comp plan. And you can see the intentions of the VC district as envisioned there. And it's to promote a more walkable, locally focused village-type commercial area. Some of the major components of the district include the following. And you see what guides our VC district code right there below. These are the recommended conditions as recommended to you for approval by the Planning Commission by a vote of 5-1. You'll see a lot of the carryover conditions we see consistently with these applications, but I'm going to go through each of them individually. Nonetheless, the plan for the site shall only be approved once all requirements of the code are satisfied. That's a carryover condition from each CUP. The second is the noise condition, and I think this will be made a lot more clear and really click with you once the applicant and his team have a chance to present on the 24th. But gunshot noise shall not exceed 55 decibels measured by city staff using a city-owned sound level reader at the western, southern, and eastern property line when the building is closed. That means no doors or windows are open. And from the northern property line as it existed at the time of application and prior to any conveyance of right-of-way. That's important because we're going to measure 40 feet. It will measure 55 decibels at the property lines, but if the applicant conveys 40 feet, we're not going to move the measurement up across what he had previously conveyed. We would keep the measurement at the property line as it existed before the time of development. 55 decibels, the best comparison I can give you for that is a typical conversation you would have with someone is about 60 decibels. So that's what we're talking about, would be limited to, at the property line. And we feel that with the condition and with the work the applicant has done in a purpose-built facility, that noise created by the use will not have any detrimental impact to City Hall, the Public Safety Building, the shopping center, or the Fountains Building. The third condition, you can see what was substituted by the Planning Commission. Staff met with the applicant in December. He had originally offered a condition to convey that 40-foot portion of right-of-way. He asked that that condition be removed. So in its place, we reinserted the original condition. You can see what's been deleted there. However, the Planning Commission, with their 5-1 approval recommendation, inserted the conveyance condition as I've described this evening, and it reads, the applicant and owner shall convey a 40-foot portion of property for the purpose of a future city right-of-way along the northern property line of the subject property to provide connection from City Hall Avenue and a future extension of Alpha Street. The 40-foot section to be conveyed will be achieved consistent with the depiction provided by the applicant and is referenced in the application and presentation materials The picture of the plat with a blue rectangle is what was provided by the applicant originally. This is the important part. The conveyance of property shall only occur following City Council approval of roadway extension to provide the applicant access and prior to the approval of a site development plan. The applicant is not required to convey any portion of his property to the city until City Council more or less approves the funding and the project for access to his parcel from that extension as described, and of course for the purpose of future connection to Alpha Street. 4, all traffic impact shall be mitigated at the expense of the developer as deemed necessary by the city manager or his designee. 5, this conditional use permit allows for all uses specifically permitted or those found in section 11-2 of the city code, permitted uses of the village commercial district, more geared towards the second phase of this project. 6, these are the uses in the business description in the application that have been recommended for approval as part of this request. And those to be permitted as part of the CUP are as follows. Retail sales as permitted in section 10-2 of the city code, permitted in conditional uses in the B2 district. Those are the permitted uses in the B2 district, basically what you see on With Creek Road, the retail sales on With Creek. Those will be permitted as part of the CUP in the subject building. This condition is important because this is what allows for the sale of outdoor sporting goods products, firearms, and accessories associated with the request. This also permits gunsmithing and firearm manufacturing. It would permit professional office space for Hampton Roads paramotors. We're fairly specific on what we mean by professional office space in the VC district. That doesn't necessarily include professional office space for a paramotor company, so we've included it here. And it would permit classroom and conference room space to be used for firearm education, firearm safety, as well as aviation safety courses associated with Hampton Roads paramotors. The 7th condition is that signage is to be permitted in accordance with Appendix D, the sign ordinance of the code. 8 is that all requirements as found in Chapter 2 Business, Article 3, gunnery ranges, shooting areas of the city code must be satisfied. This is a portion of the city code that is more or less regulated by the chief of police. This is existing code language. Number 9, coinciding with submission of a development plan, the applicant must submit architectural elevations of the proposed building as well as signage, material descriptions, paint colors, etc., to be considered by the city's architectural review board. The facility shall be designed and constructed in a manner that is consistent with the existing buildings on City Hall Avenue to include the offices located at 200 City Hall Avenue, the Poquoson Public Safety Building, and Poquoson City Hall. 10, carryover condition, the use must comply with all local, state, and federal permits, licenses, and regulations. If at any time the use is operating in violation of any of the regulations set forth by the aforementioned agencies, or the conditions listed herein, the City Council may revoke this permit. 11 is a condition that we've worked with the applicant on as far as the timelines are concerned, and it reads as follows. If a site development plan for Phase 1 is not officially submitted to the city, that doesn't mean approved, that just means professionally prepared and officially submitted for review prior to July 1 of 2026, the permit shall become null and void. So before July 1st of next year, the applicant must have a site development plan submitted to the city. If a certificate of occupancy for Phase 1 of the facility is not issued prior to December 31st of 2028, so 18 months, or actually 26, I guess, months, to have this from submitted site development plan to Phase 1 that you see in this presentation is operable, then the permit shall become null and void. This is more or less just an assurance that the applicant is actually going to move forward with the plan as requested to you all. And again, we worked with the applicant on these dates. 12, that at any time the specified permitted use on the property is discontinued for a period of 2 or more years, this permit shall become null and void. It's a carryover condition. And the last, of course, is that City Council reserves the right to review and amend the conditions of the permit as they see fit. That concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
I'll start, please. The 100-yard...
Just out of curiosity.
Oh, sure.
So we start from the beginning, or are we just going to go back and forth? I mean, like with slide 1, slide 2, slide like that?
I wasn't going to.
I
was just gonna
I'm not
talk.
picking on you, I just want to know, because I have something on about every page, but I'll defer. You go first and I'll catch up.
Thank you. One of the big questions I have is the 100-yard bay. And I've been following the process through the Planning Commission, and I think I've heard it correctly where it's going to be partially underground, partially not. You mentioned that that could be something incorporated underneath the parking lot that you can drive over?
How it was explained by the applicant is that, yes, it would be under the parking lot, but not a portion of the parking lot you would drive over, probably just for pedestrians to walk over on the parking lot, but not for vehicular access on top of.
So the top of it would be at ground level or be below?
It's hard to know without a submitted plan, but you could imagine that it will be pronounced, I'll say, in the parking lot area where you would see where those lanes are existing underground.
And with that, where I'm envisioning, and I don't know based on, I know we don't have the site plan, that the parking area would be kind of the east-northeast area.
That is a great question, and quite frankly, will depend greatly upon where access is eventually achieved. The requirements of the VC district are that parking must be located in the rear and sides, none in front. So you could imagine that if the connection is made, and this would be the front of the building, then the parking would be in the rear. If the applicant were to connect from Alpha Street, then you can imagine that depending on the orientation of the building, it would also be in the, we would have to be in the side or rear. I would say the orientation of the building may change depending on where access is achieved from, but the parking is required side or rear of the front of the building.
Yeah, that's one of my questions is, what's this place look like? Where's the front door? Where's the parking and all that stuff? I'll hold it up so the camera behind me can see. We got this when we had a conditional use permit for the storage building. Pretty detailed. We could see what was going on. I can't see this. I see lines drawn on a map, but where's the front door?
With this orientation, there would be an access from City Hall Avenue, but I would say that the primary entrance would be from the parking lot shown approximately where I'm pointing.
So that would make that the front and the parking would have to be behind.
Right, it would, in this situation, it appears that it would front on the roundabout of City Hall Avenue.
Sorry to interrupt, Andy.
So, and based on what you said, so it sounds like, depending on where the applicant has access, so would the decision of the conveyance have to be made prior to his site plan so that he knows which way to orient the building?
Well, it is a condition of approval, but the conveyance, of course, would not occur until such time that City Council approves funding and I would say a schedule for the project. So It is my understanding that if it's approved as you see it tonight and as recommended by the Planning Commission, then that question would soon follow. Is that extension something you all are interested in? And if so, how to appropriately move forward and in what time frame? If that was something City Council was not interested in, then the applicant and owner doesn't have to convey any property to the city.
But access to this particular property has to come down through an extension of office?
There is a private easement from Alpha Street shown here, Willanna Road. I honestly cannot tell you all the details of the private access, but the public right-of-way ends at the end of Alpha Street as it currently exists. And then you can see there's two pieces of private property between the terminus of Alpha Street and the applicant's property line.
Right. I was just wondering, if a person wants to go there, once this can be built, how are they going to get there in a car?
That's a great question. If we were to provide access from City Hall Avenue through to Alpha Street, it could certainly be accessed from City Hall Avenue. If that is not the case and the applicant achieves connection from Alphas, then it would be accessed from Alphas. If it were appropriate and feasible to provide access from the roundabout at City Hall, that may be an option.
Option for whom?
It may be just an option for access.
What kind of uses can you put on an easement? Can you put a walking path, for instance?
I will defer to the city attorney about private access easement usage.
Well, it depends on how the easement was created and who it's intended to serve. I will tell you that I have some knowledge of the Williana Road, and it's not particularly well located, and it's not particularly well defined. However, it is clearly shown on those two lots to the right of the site. There is, under it identifies Williana Road. It appears that before there was Alpha Street on the west side, it picked up on With Creek Road and came through the Big Woods. It served multiple pieces of property. I'm not an expert on it. I looked for it at one occasion in the past, tried to get some definitive location, but I didn't. I didn't resolve that. That's something the applicant's going to have to prove, that he has access, properly dedicated and properly set up. It may be that the easement is purely for, vehicular traffic, or it could be purely for ingress and egress. You have to look and see what the creation of the easement grants to the various owners along the way.
But what I was thinking about, which doesn't really have much to do with our main subject, but we got going to have like 1,000, 1,200 people just to the west of here. And if we could have a way that they could walk/bicycle to the main shopping center or With Creek sidewalk, I think that would be a big advantage. So that was the reason I asked the question.
That's part of your consideration and what you have certain rights to require before you grant the conditional use permit.
My concern, if you could go back to where we have the conceptual drawing on the entire lot. There we go. Nope, that one. This is such a large development, 2.5 acres. And I know that we've been concerned in the area about tree lines and setbacks and things of that nature. Thomas, is there I haven't seen anything in any of the write-ups about the maintaining of any of that tree buffer between plots or anything like that, because it's a large parking lot and things of that nature. For example, the storage unit included extensive landscaping in the front and things like that, because, initial construction looks like a big scar, but then once all the landscaping and things like that is in, it kind of ameliorates or mitigates that effect. And of course, this is going to be a big clear out while that construction's going on. What are the plans at this time, or has that even been discussed, or what are the setback requirements, that sort of thing?
Sure. The purpose of the VC district is so that buildings front the street closely so that it's accessible by pedestrian access. And that's why the parking is in the sides or rears. There is a provision for the side yards and buffer zones. The code says each side yard shall be a minimum of 10 feet unless zero lot line development or attached development is used in conformance with the provisions of the article. That wouldn't be the case here. And then there's some other requirements for side yards with access driveways of the such. But the buffer requirements is just that a minimum 25-foot buffer area maintained in its natural state must be along the right-of-way of Victory Boulevard. There's no buffer requirement per se in this location. Right.
Okay, my turn? Okay, how tall is the building supposed to be? 3 floors?
It is proposed as 3 levels, I would say. The third just being that cornerstone. The exact height, though, I'm not sure. I wouldn't be sure of that until a building plan would be submitted. I would imagine somewhere around 35 feet.
35 feet, yeah. Okay, I did notice that with the 3 floors, I assume there's going to be some type of
Well,
elevator?
I would
Okay,
assume,
maybe getting in the weeds, but-
I'm not sure, but the code calls for a maximum building height in the VC district, and that shall not exceed 3.5 stories or 40 feet in height. So that is the current height requirement in the VC district.
I'm just pointing out the elevator because they go to detail of putting the stairs in, but not any for an elevator, other levels. Okay, how long is each of these phases estimated to be building? Do we know?
Well, the condition speaks to that in the requirement for completion and plan submission, but the timeline for construction, I'm not exactly sure. That would be a question for the applicant.
Okay. And follow up with a question from over there. Basically, we're talking about every tree on that 2.5 acres is going to be removed. We're estimating.
I couldn't answer that either until we had a site development plan in front of us.
Okay. I already asked the question, where the main entrance is. No. Where will parking be located? We don't know. Where's driving access? We don't know. Question on the paramotors. How will these be displayed? Inside? Outside?
Inside, I believe primarily there's some language that speaks to outdoor displays in the VC district, but all implications is, from the applicant is that they would be displayed and sold inside the building.
Okay. Because my question is regarding that is the only pictures I see are outside. These are properly considered a vehicle. And under our VC prohibited uses, number 2 is automobile or other vehicle sales and/or repair agencies is prohibited. Could that be a prohibiting feature of this?
It's a good question. I think we would have to really understand and hop into the definition of vehicle in that case.
Okay, I did.
Which is something we can certainly do.
I did. An aircraft is a vehicle for traveling through the air, which is Merriam-Webster. Go to Federal Relations or CFRs, Title 14, Chapter 1, Subchapter A, Part 1, Section 1.1. Talks about aircraft means a device that is used for intended to be used for flight in the air. So basically, this is a vehicle which is prohibited. So pushing that back to the applicant, there is going to be a good case that that would not be allowed to be sold there. So one of the things that the plan of doing may not happen.
I had the idea that this area here was just classroom only.
I
Yeah, that's what he's going to use. He's going to teach that in the classroom, but they're going to fly elsewhere. What I understood from it.
That's not what I understand, so.
That's something we can clarify with the applicant prior to the public hearing.
Okay, I listened to the Planning Commission meeting on the 23rd. I heard people speaking in favor of the shooting range. There were 5 of them, but one of them was from York County. I heard one gentleman speak in opposition and one person speak that was basically neutral, talking about things in general. I also heard the applicant make a comment with regard to shooting range that there are worse things in Poquoson than a shooting range. I don't know what's worse, what's bad about Poquoson, let alone what's worse than a shooting range. I also heard him say that half the people in Poquoson are carrying around a gun every day when they walk around town. Must be the I know some people that are on the Economic Development Authority. Right now we have 6 lots, about 7 acres across the street on Victory Boulevard. The applicant make a comment that unfortunately this is the last decent-sized lot in the city that is available. If you can find a better lot than in the city, then I'm all ears, but the reality is that there isn't. Are the Economic Development Authority lots not available?
And they're still for sale as far as I know.
Okay.
Councilman Thigh?
Yes.
If I can just clarify for a second. If you go to the conditions, we do specifically, per the applicant's request, say that this is professional office space for Hampton Roads paramotors. So with that condition, there wouldn't be a retail component on site, but simply office space for him and his staff, as that is one of his businesses.
This sounds like a strange thing to have a car dealership without any cars in front. I'm not a businessman like that, so. Those are all the questions I have.
I know that we're running short on time. I just have one more quick question. I know you mentioned that the potential traffic impacts right now are incalculable. Could you please tell me what tools in the city's toolbox are available to mitigate traffic in the future if it does seem to be impacting the area?
Sure. I think it definitely depends on the scale of the developments and the uses incorporated in the building. But we have guidance in our code for parking spaces required for certain uses, and certainly if this rose to the level of warranting a traffic impact study and some engineers give us some remediation, some ideas for mitigating the traffic impact, that's something we would do in the development review process.
Thomas did have one question for you. Were there any other questions from council members before I ask mine?
Well, I don't really have a question so much as a comment. I agree that we absolutely need to have the elevations and a architectural conceptual drawing before, I wouldn't want to approve it unless I knew what it was, pretty close to what it was going to look like. And I think that firing range will be a good business in the town. I don't have any concerns about the noise of stray bullets or any of that stuff. I'm more concerned about if we take his property on the north side and put a road through there, we don't go all the way with it. That's another one of those things where we're doing a phase 1 and never get around to doing a phase 2.
Yeah, I kind of questioned when I saw this, that who were the architectural geniuses that drew a circle in front of City Hall with a spur going out to a lot that was privately owned.
Well, plans do change over 20 years. I'll defend them a little bit.
But it's still privately owned.
Thomas, if you could go back to the conditions, please, page 1 of the conditions. Condition number 3, just to make certain that I'm understanding correctly. I know that we have the public hearing and the potential vote on this project scheduled for 14 days from tonight. The way that reads, in order to approve it between now and then, council would have to approve the extension of Alpha Street in order for that right-of-way to be conveyed. So in order for us to vote on that 14 days from today, that would have to be done?
I would respectfully, Mr. Mayor, the approval of the extension is what would trigger the conveyance. But council is not obligated to approve that project or those dollars before consideration of the conditional use permit. If you were to approve the permit, how it's been presented with that consideration, then certainly a conversation would follow amongst council to then make a determination on whether or not the connection is a project you would like to pursue and fund. And at that time is when the conveyance would take place. If that didn't happen, the owner wouldn't be responsible to convey any property to the city.
But without that conveyance and the extension of the road, it would be impossible to determine the ingress and egress to this facility.
Without the extension, I would say option, I believe that is preferred by the applicant, or certainly mostly discussed, is the access from Alpha Street through the private easement. So he would still have access to the lot regardless of whether or not the new access is created from City Hall Avenue.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Can I ask a follow-up question?
Please do.
Thomas, question on the same condition. I'm just trying to wrap my head around how the word "and" works in the last sentence.
Sure.
The conveyance of the property shall only occur following city council approval of the roadway extension. I got that one. And prior to the site plan, approval of the site plan. So are we saying that if the site plan is already approved, accessing Liliana Road or some other means, because of the "and", does that mean that the dedication and the extension is precluded? Because it doesn't say "and" or, it says "and".
The intent is certainly that the applicant shall, of course, convey that portion to us following the approval of funding for the extension by City Council and prior to the site development plan, just to ensure that that conveyance is incorporated in the plan on how the applicant would access the building, but certainly open to suggestions to clarify if necessary.
Okay, thank you. I'll give some thought to that. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I just have one last comment, and similar to what Councilman Freeman had mentioned, it's a very unique use for this area, which makes it potentially a very exciting use for this area and amenity. But because it is so unique, there are a lot of unknown unknowns about it and impacts and the scale and how it fits in. So that's what's going on in my head too, is like, what unknown unknowns are we not thinking of so that we don't have unintended consequences down the road?
Any other questions from council members? Well, just to share my opinion on this, I think that the concept certainly has potential to be of significant benefit to the community. just to follow up with what Councilwoman Emmett just stated, there are a multitude of uncertainties that we will need to get ironed out before we will be able to go but so far with this. And so there's some things that need to be worked out between now and the 24th so we can potentially vote on it that night.
Not only with the conditional use permit for the city requirements, but the applicant also has the opportunity to proffer to the city certain things that would be included. You can't require a proffer. It's up to the applicant if he wants to enhance the project to meet the concerns the city has. The applicant can offer that proffer, but you can't require it. You're limited to the CUP and what conditions you do for the conditional use. So there's two parallel things going on.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Moore. Anything else?
I have a question. So,
Yes, ma'am.
Councilman Fye, you talked about the storage building and the picture that you had that you were showing there. So prior to, and I wasn't on council during that time when the storage building was, the conditional use permit was approved. Before that happened, did you have an idea? You had a diagram, what that was going to look like, at least what the building was going to look like, a height, what that long tube for the gun shooting range, you know, what it's going to look like in the parking lot? Are you going to be able to walk over it? How's that going to work? As you go up to the door, it looked like in one of the slides there, the door was, I believe you said the door was going to be right there in that area? Right there. That the door, and then that's the long range there? Yeah, so we have no idea what anything's going to look like, but you did have an idea before you approved the conditional use permit for the storage, what it was going to look like.
Yes, ma'am. The
Okay.
storage building went through the architectural review board prior to coming to council.
Well, I think we've had a good idea of what everything that we've ever
Well, that's what I was
approved is
thinking.
going to look
It
like.
seems like to vote on something in 14 days, we really don't know a lot about it.
You don't have to vote for it either.
Exactly.
Okay, if you're not satisfied,
Right.
then you can deny it. I mean, it's
Right.
not, you're not compelled to approve just because somebody makes certain recommendations. You're not
Right.
bound by those.
Understand that. Thank you.
All right, any other questions or comments by council? All right, very good. Thanks so much for your contributions, Thomas. Your presentation was well prepared, well delivered, so I offer my compliments and my appreciation.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, sir. We'll conclude the work session and move into our regular session. Good evening and welcome to all. This meeting of the Poquoson City Council is called to order. And with that, Councilwoman Jeannie Hubbard will lead us in the invocation and pledge of allegiance. If we could please rise.
Let us pray. Lord, thank you so much for this council and its partnership together to discuss things that are of importance to each of us with respect for each other and those who bring those desires to us and entrust us with our input. We thank you for our citizens who are able to come in person and watch us online, and those who commit to reviewing our recordings during the week and to come to us with their concerns, their thoughts, and their hopes. We thank you for this country that we live in. We thank you for our neighbors. And we thank you for the opportunity to serve. In your name we pray. Amen.
Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Jeannie. Tonight we have a special presentation brought to us by Mr. Sean Avery. Sean is the President and Chief Executive Officer of the Hampton Roads Workforce Council and happens to be a resident of Poquoson. So I've known Sean for quite some time, back to my school board days working with New Horizons. Sean's presentation is going to address the changes impacting the federal workforce. So, Sean, thank you for being here with us tonight.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be home. I can get home pretty quick from here. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to come out and talk about what's going on with the federal workforce. I wish last time I came to present to you, it was on positive terms, talking about all the great things we've got going on. Now, this is the other side of our business when we actually have to jump in when businesses are closing and mass layoffs are happening. Unfortunately, this one is happening all over the place, and it's happening kind of sporadically, and we're still trying to figure out exactly what all it means. But just rest assured, as your regional workforce development board, we are prepared, we are ready to meet those challenges. I know we're hearing every day there's going to be a layoff here, and then it doesn't happen, it gets postponed or it gets turned over. So it really is a very unusual time and very challenging time. But it's most challenging for the individuals that are going through these changes and these unfortunate times. So what I'm really going to talk about today is the resources that are available for you, for your citizens, and again, anything that I talk about today, we'll put online, we'll send to you by email, but just know that we're here. So Workforce Council, we are the regional organization that's responsible for making sure we've got the talent in the region to be successful. We're in 15 cities and counties, all over all over Hampton Roads. This is kind of see us with the blue one down there. Kerry serves very nicely on the board. He's on my board of directors, and Randy works very close with us. Our job is to work with our educational partners to identify educational opportunities and put programs in place to really hit our targeted industries and our high demand sectors. We work very closely with key partners such as the community-based organizations like AARP, Senior Services, Job Corps, and Virginia Employment Commission. And then we work very closely with our business partners like the Chambers of Commerce. I say all this to say that we're kind of pretty much connected with the business community and understand the job opportunities that are out there, understand where we have job openings, and that's really going to make it useful when individuals start to come into our centers looking to transition into other career opportunities. We have 6 Virginia Career Work Centers throughout the region. The closest one's right up the road at Virginia Peninsula Community College on their campus. It's where an individual who's been laid off can go, get connected with resources, talk to anybody in our centers, and get really connected with the educational opportunities that are out there or directly to a job. It's all free of charge. We're also very close to the Virginia Employment Commission, so when things starts happening, you can apply for unemployment directly in those shops. But really, what we're promoting right now is online activities, because we know there's some people who have not been impacted already, or they're the probationary employees, they've not received that notice, they're not sure if they're going to receive that notice, but maybe they just want to see what resources are out there for them if they do get impacted, or maybe they're just tired of being worried about this nonstop and they're looking for something else. So the workforcecouncil.com, we have a whole page on here that's dedicated to this federal issues. It's where anybody can go in, look to see what jobs are out there, look to see what resources we have opportunities. They can go in there, they can set up a time to talk with us. We're connected with the state on this as well. I will tell you, we meet twice a week with the Commonwealth of Virginia's Department of Labor and Industry. They're in the same boat as us, trying to figure out what resources. I do think at some point we probably will get additional dollars to help bring in some additional employees to help us with this. Just as you can remember back when the Great Recession happened back in 2009 and 2010, we actually ramped up our offices and had a number of offices to help individuals. I have a feeling that same thing's going to happen with this. We're already having conversations with the Department of Labor on that. I don't think that that's going to be impacted by DOGE, because they want to be able to help those individuals that are being impacted. But you can go to the Workforce Council. That would be my first recommendation for anybody that's out there that needs services. The Commonwealth of Virginia, which you will get directed to from our website, has also launched a website called virginiahasjobs.com. This is specifically where you can go in and look for all the job opportunities that are open right now. There are over 250,000 job openings in Virginia right now. Just in Hampton Roads, there's over 50,000 job opportunities. And they're in high demand fields: healthcare, information technology, cyber. They're in management levels. They're in skilled trades. They run the gambit. What we've been seeing since COVID and up until this is we've really had a labor shortage in Hampton Roads. We've really not been able to fill our jobs because we didn't have enough bodies or enough individuals that were skilled up or had those skills that they need. So with somebody that's coming out of the federal government, they have some of those skills, and their employers are already hammering on the door. Had a call last week with Centera Healthcare. They have job openings across the boards in their organization. They want to be part of this solution. So much so that we've got, this is the Hampton Roads page. So once you go into that state, Virginia has jobs, then you go into Hampton Roads. We have direct links to employers on this site where they can go in, directly hire. We can also talk to them if they're interested in getting a new job or getting a new skill set. We can pay for them to go back and get a new skill set to move into another industry. Again, on this page, you'll see all the resources that are associated with unemployment insurance, with anything associated with some support mechanisms that they have in the community that they're starting to roll out as well. And so again, I recommend anybody go into the Virginia Has Jobs or the Workforce Council to really see what's going on. We are targeting some special activities. I think the last time I presented here, we had just launched maritimejobsva.com. This is totally focused on maritime careers in Hampton Roads. We actually have funding to pay for somebody who they want to go back and get a job. One of our two neighbors, we're actually sending their daughter back to school to get a welding degree. And so we'll pay for that. So it's a great opportunity if you're interested in the welding field or interested in Newport News, working at Newport News Shipbuilding. A lot of career opportunities. And again, it's not just in the skilled trade, the management level all the way up. So I know that was just some quick websites. What I really wanted to do is just tell you that the resources are here. Even tomorrow or Wednesday, we will be here in the library doing some service, offering some services. As you your constituents are starting to be impacted, please send them our way. We're prepared and we're ready to go. But again, it's a little bit uncertain right now what's going to happen, but we'll be here to help them for sure. I'm happy to take any questions you may have.
I don't have a question, I just have a comment. As he mentioned, I'm on his board and meet with him about twice a month, more or less, and they just do an absolutely super job, all the way from students in high school up through veterans, disabled, etc., and has put bunches of people, or helped bunches of people in Hampton Roads area get jobs and better jobs. So just, y'all do good.
Thank you, I appreciate that. And I'm glad you mentioned that. We also have 2 Veterans Employment Centers, and in those centers, we are going to be taking civil services. Anybody that's worked in the federal government can go to our Veterans Employment Centers as well. So that one's in Newport News and one's in Norfolk. So again, we're opening up all the services to everybody.
I have a question for you. And I know that part of the genesis of this is our in the news with Doge, federal workers, things like that. Is your relationship, though, with the school system more of a push or a pull? Do you actively go into the schools to talk about what Hampton Roads has to offer so that our students want to stay here as opposed to go out?
Absolutely. Got a great relationship with your superintendent as well. So yeah, that's one of our, in our good times, well, normal times, we do that now. We do go into the schools, work very closely with the schools to kind of help do career exploration activities, help promote the jobs that are in the region, show them the opportunities that are here. We do a lot of field trips out into the region, so taking students out to see the career opportunities that are available out there. So yeah, that's stuff we do on a daily basis. That's the normal kind of activities. We want to keep our talent here in the region. We actually have a couple efforts where we're working in the college systems as well. So it's called Campus 757. It's around retaining our college graduates, getting them connected to internships before they even graduate, most of them in their junior or senior years, so that they will stay here. If they have a job before they graduate or an internship when they graduate or a career pathway, they're more likely to stay in our region if they're from outside the region.
Or those who go to our further flung universities in the state, whether it be George Mason, Tech, Radford, further out that way, do you have processes in place to keep these folks informed about, hey, now that you're getting educated, you can come back home?
We do have some of that, mostly in our maritime, our targeted sector. So maritime, we're doing some similar stuff in healthcare, information technology. We're not a huge organization, so we don't have enough staff to go visit all the campuses. But if they're going to somewhere and they come home for the summer or anything, we want to capture them and try to connect them. There's a statewide program called VTOP, Virginia Talent Opportunity Pipeline or something like that. It's very similar to our Campus 757, but it's across the state. We all do coordinate together. We're kind of heading that up with Old Dominion University, where we are able to get information out to the other schools throughout the state. But that's a little harder since we don't have staff on the ground like a recruiter at JMU or William & Mary we do, but Virginia Tech to say, hey, there's these opportunities back home. But that is something we're interested in trying to do. The governor did have some money in his budget last year to do some talent recruitment and talent retention efforts. Unfortunately, it didn't stay in that budget. Hampton Roads was going to be a pilot for that effort. So we're still trying to move that forward, and we're heavily engaged in that. So future plans.
Any other question from council?
Mr. Mayor, I do.
Yes, ma'am.
I know a lot of civil servants, often, especially if they're mid-career, they've really, over time, developed a knowledge and a skill set that is really laser focused on public service or, a scientific niche. Right. And those, for instance, maybe atmospheric sciences or something. And those skills, that skill set that they've developed maybe isn't quite as marketable or applicable to the private sector in the region. And do you have any guidance or advice for folks who are in that situation?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, yes, you're absolutely right. Not everybody that's going to be transitioning out are going to have the exact skill sets we need here. Two options there. We can meet with them, talk about what they're really looking at, and most of these systems that I showed, especially the statewide, are connected to the other states. So while we want to keep them here, in reality, there's probably some specialized careers that are going on at NASA that there may not be a replication here. But we do want to identify if they do have a very similar skill set that may be something we could utilize in unmanned systems, for example, which Drone Up in Virginia Beach is one of the largest companies in Virginia Beach. There could be some opportunities of doing those connections. So our team will work with them to really identify, hey, not really their job title, but what skills do you have? I mean, is it unmanned systems? Is it aeronautics? You've got some background in aeronautics. There's still things going on in this region that we've kind of got our pulse on with economic development and our planning district commission and the chambers where, could tee up an idea to say, hey, maybe you should think about applying for here. So long way to answer. There's some options there. Yeah.
Any other questions from council? Sean, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Your presentation is very insightful and certainly came in a very timely manner. Thank you for what you do for us.
You're welcome, and if there's anything that comes up, I'll definitely keep you all in the loop, and as things progress, I'll let you know.
All right, thank you
Okay.
again, Sean.
Thank you. It's good to see everybody.
Likewise. I'd like to take advantage of the opportunity to talk about how closely we work with our school board, and this is a good example, so I'll take advantage of that, how this presentation came about. We talk a lot about the importance of relationships and how closely we work with others throughout the community and throughout the region. But 9 days ago, we received an email from Dr. Chris Burbidge, who is our school board chairman, expressing concern about the families and the students in our school system may be impacted by the reduction in force in the federal government. I didn't know the answer, so I did what I normally do in situations like that. I passed a question along to City Manager Randy Wheeler to do some research on that. In the meantime, Councilwoman Hubbard, she did have some personal expertise that she shared with Dr. Burbidge, but Randy got in touch with Mr. Sean Avery, and 9 days later, here we are. But it all started with a question from Dr. Chris Burbidge. So I want to thank Chris for that contribution, and the presentation tonight was certainly beneficial. So thank you so much for that. And moving on to item D in the agenda is the audience for visitors. Do we have anybody here with us tonight that'd like to speak with us? Very well. Seeing none, we will close the floor and move on to item E, approval of the minutes. Do we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the work session from February 24th, 2025?
So move, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Thank you. Christie, call for a vote, please.
Vice Mayor Bunting?
Aye.
Councilman Fye?
Aye.
Councilman Freeman?
Aye.
Councilwoman Hubbard?
Aye.
Councilwoman Emmett?
Aye.
Mayor Hucks?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6.
Thank you, Christie. Do we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the regular session from February 24th, 2025?
So move, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Thank you. Christie?
Councilman Fye?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Bunting?
Aye.
Councilwoman Emmett?
Aye.
Councilman Freeman?
Aye.
Councilwoman Hubbard?
Aye.
Mayor Hucks?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, motion carried by a vote of 6-0.
Thank you, Christie. All right, from there, we'll move into our new business. Item 1, we have an ordinance amending Chapter 38, Fire Prevention and Protection, Article 6, Section 38-158 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Poquoson, Virginia. We have Deputy Fire Chief John Young here with us tonight. Deputy Chief, thank you for being here. The floor is yours.
Absolutely. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council, Mr. Wheeler. This evening, presented for your consideration is an ordinance adjusting the city's revenue recovery rates. Annually, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services establish the approved federal Medicare reimbursement rates, and the private insurance companies follow suit and establish their rates. Our rates here in the city were last adjusted in 2020. Our billing company that we contract with has recommended typically setting your reimbursement rates to be 150% of what Medicare allows for, and that's because of the variances with the private insurance companies and what the different rates are. It gives them a federal standard to kind of stick by instead of following the private sector. Anything that we would bill revenue recovery-wise above that allowable charge is written off under contractual allowance. When our program was first established, we used this formula, but the ordinance adopted specific rates rather than a percentage formula. So the purpose of this suggestion is to build the formula into our ordinance so that we don't have to continue to come back to council and update the ordinance every time Medicare changes their rates. As has always been our practice, city administration views the taxpayers of the city, their taxes, count towards their copay. We never bill a city resident for any service that we provide. Non-residents of the city are eligible for our compassionate billing program, which is it's a mean to waive any financial obligation for our services. So we have those vehicles remain in place, and by ordinance will continue to remain in place. If this is approved, we would look to establish this effective April 1st. And I'm happy to try to answer any questions that you may have.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
So those folks, you said the co-insurance that a resident would need to pay, those fees are
Yes.
okay. And the person who has the high deductible health plan, I mean, sometimes that's like $3,500, $4,000. That deductible
Nothing out of pocket.
amount is waived as well.
Yes, ma'am.
And I did see the transport decline fee. So you go to a house in the city and stats are checking out okay, and the patient says, I don't really want to go. We charge for that as well?
We do reimbursable because we still may use supplies, we may provide oxygen, we may do diagnostic EKGs. There are times where we may even administer medications, and then they feel better and they don't want to go to the emergency room. So we still try to recover what we can from insurance. Some insurances will reimburse for non-transport.
I was going to ask, I didn't know they would
Right,
cover
and
that.
if it turns out that their insurance does not reimburse for it, then it's waived. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Any other questions from council? Deputy Chief, thank you so much. Well done, my friend.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. We also have Fire Chief Mike Bryant with us here tonight as well, so appreciate y'all coming out. So with that, do we have a motion and a second?
Move that we council approve ordinance amending Chapter 38, Fire Prevention and Protection, Article 6, Section 38, TAC 158 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Poquoson.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Christie, call for vote, please.
Councilwoman Emmett,
Aye.
Councilwoman Hubbard,
Aye.
Councilman Fye,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Bunting,
Aye.
Councilman Freeman,
Aye.
Mayor Hux.
Aye.
Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-0.
Thank you. Item 2 under new business is an ordinance transferring funds from the Poquoson Middle School gym roof recover replacement project to the Poquoson High School HVAC replacement project within the capital budgets fund for Poquoson City Public School. And with us tonight, we have our finance director, Ms. Tara Woodruff.
Good evening, Mayor
Tara?
Hux and council members. The city received a request from the school superintendent to transfer funds in the amount of $800,000 from the Poquoson Middle School gym roof recover replacement project to the Poquoson High School HVAC replacement project. And a copy of that letter was included in your packet for you to see. The city currently has $3.5 million available to the schools for the high school HVAC project. If you remember, we had appropriated $2.8 million in the FY25 budget in the capital projects fund, and we are issuing bonds for that project funding this week. At the city council meeting, December 9th, 2024, the schools requested an additional $700,000 to be reappropriated from their FY24 carryover to this project as well. So that makes up that 3.5. The school board held a special meeting on February 24th, and they awarded the PHS HVAC replacement project to Warwick Mechanical Group with a total contract value of $4,319,954. So therefore, if you approve the $800,000 transfer tonight, this will increase the city's appropriation to $4.3 million within the capital projects funds, and then the schools will use the additional $19,954 in their current operating budget to fund that little additional amount for their contract value. And I also want to point out at the December 9th, 2024 meeting, City Council also approved the reappropriation of $734,000 for additional school capital projects, and that appropriation remains available for them to use for those approved capital projects. So you have an ordinance for consideration to transfer the 800,000 within the capital projects funds from the middle school gym roof project to the Poquoson High School HVAC project. And I would be happy to answer any questions. Mr. Tillett and Mr. Roberts from the schools are here as well to answer questions.
I asked you earlier, but now the specialists are here. You anticipated it was going to be over $4 million. Is this in the ballpark of where you expect it to be?
This is right on. We're pretty locked into that price now, and with a guarantee to complete the project by the time school starts again in the fall. So we're excited about getting this underway. And also, this is the same package, just for clarification, that we used with the primary school project, which was a big success. Thank you.
Any other questions from council? Very well. Tara, thank you for your presentation. Very well done. Also want to thank Superintendent Artie Tillett and Assistant Superintendent Andrew Roberts for being here tonight as well. And with that, do we have a motion and a second?
Mr. Mayor, I propose an ordinance transferring funds from the Poquoson Middle School Gym Roof Recovery Replacement Project to the Poquoson High School HVAC Replacement Project within the Capital Projects Fund, Poquoson City Schools.
Second.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Christie?
Councilman Freeman.
Aye.
Councilwoman Emmett.
Aye.
Councilman Fye.
Aye.
Councilwoman Hubbard.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Bunting.
Aye.
Mayor Hux.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-0.
Thank you, Christie. Item 3 under new business is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Branscombe Operating LLC. And with us tonight is our Public Works Director, Mr. John Anderson. Good evening, John.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. We're seeking approval of a 2-year contract with Branscombe for street paving and pavement markings work within the city. The city solicited bids for paving and pavement markings work, and 3 bid responses were received. Branscombe Paving was the lowest, most responsible bidder. The period of this contract is for 2 years with the option of 3 one-year renewals. Work in this bid includes providing all labor and material for milling, paving, and applying pavement markings to designated streets within the city. Branscombe is a contractor that has experience performing this work with positive results, so we're seeking approval of this contract.
Keith?
My question is, when does the 2-year begin? Or,
Paving?
well, this contract?
Oh, April 1st.
Yep.
Any other questions from council? John, thank you for being with us. Appreciate that. Do we have a motion and a second?
Mr. Mayor, I propose a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Branscombe Operating LLC.
Second?
Thank you. Christie?
Councilwoman Hubbard.
Aye.
Councilman Freeman.
Aye.
Councilwoman Emmett.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Bunting.
Aye.
Councilman Fye.
Aye.
Mayor Hux.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-0.
Thank you. Item 4 is a resolution making appointment to the Library Advisory Board. Do we have a motion and a second?
Mr. Mayor, I propose a resolution that the following persons be appointed to the Library Advisory Board. Mr. Terry Johnson from Western, Ms. Patricia Green, Eastern, and both of these terms will expire 31 January 2028, and Mr. Richard Hidcock II from Central, his term will expire 31 Jan 2026.
Second.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Christie?
Councilman Freeman.
Aye.
Councilwoman Hubbard.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Bunting.
Aye.
Councilman Fye.
Aye.
Councilwoman Emmett.
Aye.
Mayor Hux.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-0.
Thank you, Christie. Item 5 under new business is a resolution making an appointment to the Architectural Review Board. This appointment is specific for the architect's position. Do we have a motion and a second?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt a resolution making an appointment to the Architectural Review Board, appointing Donald Booth Jr., who is an architect, and his term will expire January 31st, 28.
Have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Christie?
Vice Mayor Bunting,
Aye.
Councilman Fye,
I'd like to congratulate Don's son for being state champion in wrestling, and I vote aye.
Councilman Freeman, Councilwoman Hubbard,
Aye.
Councilwoman Emmett,
Aye.
Mayor Hucks.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor,
Thank you. Item 6 is a resolution making appointments to the Economic Development Authority. Do we have a motion and a second?
Mr. Mayor, I propose a resolution that the following persons be appointed to the Economic Development Authority. Ms. Kathleen Fye and Mr. Raymond Yanella, terms expire 31 March 2029, and Ms. Patricia Almus, whose term expires 31 March 2028.
Second?
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Christie?
Councilman Fye,
I have to abstain. I may or may not be related to one of the members on that list.
Vice Mayor Bunting,
Aye.
Councilwoman Emmett,
Aye.
Councilman Freeman,
Aye.
Councilwoman Hubbard,
Aye.
Mayor Hucks.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7-0 with one abstention.
Thank you, Christie. Comments of the city manager. Randy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. A few items this evening. For those watching at home primarily, just wanted to remind everyone that our annual joint work session with the school board, which is typically second meeting in April, will be held this month, so the second meeting in the month of March, 2 weeks from tonight at 6 o'clock. Also, for any persons that were either here or joined us at home with regard to the work session that you had at 6:15 regarding the raffles conditional use permit application, just a reminder that the public hearing for that will be at your next meeting on or shortly after 7 o'clock on the 24th in this room. Report to council and the public the right-of-way work for the portion of Little Florida that we've previously commenced is on track and due to be completed on or about the end of this month. Hope to have it to you no later than one of your May meetings. Depending on the quality of what we get, we may be able to do it your second April meeting. We'll know it when we see it. Additionally, the right-of-way work associated with your request for the right-of-ways that may pertain to future sidewalk projects on Upper Poquoson Avenue has commenced. That is a more extensive project. It is scheduled to be done on or about the 1st of July. So hope to have that back before you for presentation probably at your August meeting, but again, depending on the exact timing and the conditions in when we get it, we may be able to do that one meeting earlier to do it in July. Lastly, I just wanted to note to council, Tara had discussed the authorization that was included in the budget for the $2.8 billion borrowing for to support the high school HVAC system project. We had that bond signing today, and so we're green-lighted on that. You'll recall that's something we've talked about a couple of times this year. And anyway, we signed all the official documents today. That's all I have, sir.
Thank you, Randy. Council directives. Debbie?
I would like to remind everyone, Jones and Cops is coming up at Beans, Sunday, March 16th, 2 to 4, and all that are present there will receive a free ice cream scoop. That is all youth, not youth at heart. There is an age to that. Also, I did attend the 15th Annual Community Group Meeting that was hosted by the Community Recreation Department on Thursday, February 27th, as well as some other council members. And others from the city, for community groups. It was very informative. There were a lot of representatives there, and they got to tell about their group, what they did. It was very eye-opening to me, some of the things that they do, that they're involved in, I didn't know about. So, and that was the 15th annual meeting, which I believe was started by Dave Callis, who passed away recently, and that's something hopefully that will keep on, and his memory will keep alive in that. Also, some of the sports, the school sports, state championships were in the past weekend or so. Poquoson wrestling, they were crowned the state champions, and congratulations to all of those team members there. Also, the Scholastic Bowl team placed third. Congratulations to them. That was the state competition. Swim meet, Richmond, the boys team placed 5th overall, and the girls team placed 10th overall. And there was also some, other individuals in all of these categories that, placed well and won state championships as well. So congratulations to all of those students as well. And that is all.
Thank you, Debbie. Keith?
Yes, reminder to all that the mobile food pantry will be this coming Thursday, 10 to 12 o'clock for volunteers that are coming, which is the Exchange Club and Yacht Club. Be there about 8:30, and hopefully the weather will be nicer than it has been the last 2 months. Second thing is, I should have mentioned it when we appointed him, but Mr. Richard Hedgecock, who we just appointed Library Advisory Board, has only been a member of the city of Poquoson for 8 months, and I'd like to pat him on the back for throwing himself into the fray, so to speak, and becoming a member on one of our boards and commissions. Normally, Bud makes those kind of announcements, but I thought I'd make it this time and welcome Richard to the city.
Thank you, Keith. Mr. Freeman?
Have nothing further tonight.
Thank you. Jeannie?
I'd like to play on what you just said, Keith. Being a member of one of our boards and commissions has been a great honor. I think those of us on city council who've served in one board or another can tell you that it's a great entry point into becoming a member at this table. That we learn so much about those givers in our community. One of the things I wanted to mention that this past weekend, the high school show choir competed at a competition called the Titan Tournament at Cosby High School. And although the students themselves didn't place, I wanted to mention that a member of show choir, when I was in show choir way back in the day, Branson Matheson, has selflessly given himself to helping with the stage crew and those efforts for a number of years. I think easily 8 years now that he's been giving his time as an adult, giving back to that. And Marquita Williams, their choreographer, who didn't come from our school system, but she has been an immeasurable help with those students and helping them mature as performers. But our brand new show choir director did win Best Director at that competition. So congratulations, Director Reed.
Thank you, Jeannie. Angie?
Just thank you to everyone who's here tonight. Thank you to everyone watching at home. I will play Bud this evening, but I really don't have anything else to add.
Thank you, Angie. I just had a couple comments. I'd like to express appreciation to Ms. Jen Pinella and Ms. Allison Kroll supporting us tonight in the IT room. So thanks so much for that. I'd like to call attention to our new sign on the public safety building. Thank you to Tanya O'Connell, our Assistant City Manager, our Police Chief Stephen Cates, and Mr. Keith Webb, who's our Project Manager. When a person turns off of Victory on City Hall Avenue and looks over at the public safety building, the first thing you see is Poquoson Public Safety. I think that makes a very strong statement as to who we are, what we're all about, and how high we prioritize public safety. A lot of fine people that contribute to that. Some of those folks are here with us tonight. Thank you all enough, and just want to call attention to the sign. And with that, I'll ask if we have a motion and a second for adjournment.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Thank you. Christie?
Councilwoman Emmett,
Aye.
Councilwoman Hubbard,
Aye.
Councilman Fye,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Bunting,
Aye.
Councilman Freeman.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-0.
Thank you. We are adjourned.